اللي كان هنا في قبل اسبوعين هو موضوع الترافل بان. طبعا سريعا يعني قال انه الترافل بان اصبح قانوني لانه المحكمه الدستوريه العليا الامريكيه وافقت عليه، فلا يمكن تغييره الا بطريقتين وتكلم عنها المره الاولى، هي قرار من الرئيس نفسه تنفيذي بالغاء القرار، او بالكونغرس نفسه انه يقوم يعمل القانون بالغاء الحظر. طبعا الشيء هذا وتطرق بعدين الى موضوع الانتخابات واهميه الانتخابات، انه لن يكون هناك في تغيير الا اذا احنا خرجنا وشاركنا في الانتخابات واثبتنا وجودنا باصواتنا، اثبات الوجود بالصوت. ايضا ممكن انه هناك في رالي يعني غدا ان شاء الله يوم الاحد من 4 إلى 10 في ديربورن كوميونتي اوف بيرفورمينج ارتس، بيكون فيه موجود from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. بيكون فيه موجود الدكتور عبد الرحمن السيد، ابراهيم عياش، بتكون فيه ليندا صرصور وهي ناشطه سياسيه معروفه اصبحت على مستوى امريكا، بتكون هناك تتحدث في الموضوع. طبعا كلام الدكتور وليد هو يعني اعاده لما قاله قبل اسبوعين. فالان نسمع من المحاميه اللي بتتكلم عن الحظر. And we will go to Mrs. Julie. Mrs. Julie, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. First of all, I want to ask, does anybody have any idea how easy it could be to get rid of this ban? Does anybody know what has to happen to make this ban go away? Go ahead.
Go vote.
Yeah, that's part of it. The other thing is if the senators introduced a bill right now in Congress that said that any immediate relative of a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident is not subject to the proclamation, this entire thing goes away. And this community, especially in Michigan, and I know there are several Muslim communities around the country that have the authority to change or to put pressure on these congressmen. And this is the most important way we can get rid of this. So to follow up on what he said, I have been asking every one of my clients to go find 5 people that are U.S. citizens and register them to vote. And I've heard many times, a lot of times the women are not voting, so this is to you guys. I need you guys to vote. And if you have U.S. citizens that are residing overseas right now, taking care of children, you can get an absentee ballot. So a lot of us might have moms, sisters, daughters who are overseas because we can't get the entire family over. If they are over 18 and U.S. citizens, I need everybody to register them and ask for an absentee ballot. So I think that's very, very important. I want to turn to the waiver process itself.
Okay. طبعا هي تكلمت بدات بالكلام وسالت سؤال من يعرف انه في طريقه سهله جدا لالغاء الحظر. الطريقه هذه هي بالتواصل مع السيناتورز. لو واحد من السيناتورز في واشنطن وقال انه كل واحد سواء يكون امريكان سيتيزن او عنده الجرين كارد، تكلم وقال انه اي واحد عنده اقارب اللي هم الاميديت فاميلي، الاقارب يعني مثلا كالاولاد، الزوجه، الاب، الام، انه لا يحق لهم انهم يمنعوهم، ممكن القرار هذا ينتهي بسرعه. وبعدين رجعت وتكلمت في نفس الموضوع اللي بنتكلم عليه، الانتخابات. قالت بتعرف انه حتى سمعت من الجاليه اليمنيه، الجاليه هذه، انه النساء ما بتخرجش للتصويت تصوت. فبتسال يعني يمكن ليش ما نخرج نصوت جميعا، النساء واطفال ورجال، كل واحد اوفر 18 يخرج ويصوت. ايضا حتى قالت اليوم في اليمن، عائله في اليمن وهو امريكان سيتيزن يقدر يصوت من اليمن، يقدر يسحب ابسنتي بالغ ويصوتوهم في اليمن، يعني تصويت غيابي. فدائما لما بنتكلم عن الانتخابات اهميتها يعني ما هوش بسيطه ولا هي سهله. فانت تكلمت عن هذا، وايضا انه التواصل مع السيناتورز، انه يعني لو ايضا بتنصح انه لو واحد امريكان سيتيزن ويعرف بس 5 اشخاص امريكان سيتيزن مش مسجلين يسجلهم يصوتوا، انه بيغيروا كثير من المعادله.
So I'd like to turn to the waiver process. And my office, after taking tons of data, many of you know I have an office in Dawud. I work with not only Yemeni, but I also work with the Somalis that are coming out and coming into Dawud. I believe this entire process to be nothing but a fraud. As of a couple weeks ago, you might know, I have been collecting statements from State Department employees, one of which went public, who specifically stated that there is no waiver it is nothing but fraud. And I understand that many of you are putting packages together and trying to present them at the window, and they are being turned away. Can I see a number of hands of how many people, if you don't mind, how many people tried to present hardship evidence and got turned away from the window?
من اللي قدموا أوراق إنه في صعوبة في اليمن ورفضوهم بجيبوتي؟
Or Malaysia or Egypt.
أو أي دولة غير جيبوتي، ماليزيا، القاهرة. هذا من ماليزيا.
Anywhere in the world. If you've tried to present hardship documents and they refuse to accept them at the window, I kind of want to see a show of hands.
ورفضوا قبولهم بالسفارة، بالقنصلية.
أنا مقبول بالهان، ما مقبول بالهان.
هي بتتكلم عن اللي في السفارات خارج أمريكا.
Here's what I want to do. I don't want you to stop trying. I want you to keep putting the packages together, and I want you to keep attempting to submit them. If they are refused, I am going to give you an email where I'd like you to send me your story. If you can't type your story out, you can type it in English or Arabic. If you can't, you are welcome to call my office. We will put you through to a specific person. We are trying to document and show the process through which we believe this to be fraud. And what we want to do is not only use this to litigate in court, but we would like to use this to put pressure on the Congress. I know it's happening. I know you guys are going there giving documents. I know specifically, listen, in Djibouti, it's Chap, it's Ryan, and I'm going to name these people's names and it's Greg Talcott. And I know that they are being disrespectful. I know they are turning people away, and we need to document what is going on.
طبعا هي الان تتكلم عن الويبر، هي بتقول لكم ان الويبر عباره عن يعني ما لها شيء على عباره عن عمليه احتيال فقط. انه الويبر هي اخذت تصريحات من بعض المسؤولين في وزاره الخارجيه الامريكيه، طبعا ما تقدرش تذكر اسمائهم، بس قالوا لنا انه ما فيش حاجه اسمها ويبر ولا شيء. هي عباره عن عمليه مغالطه او احتيال على المعاملين فقط علشان ياخذوا معاملاتهم. وتقول هي بتعطينا ايميل حق الأوفيس لاي واحد عنده قدم اوراق وقال له انه مثلا عنده مشاكل في اليمن انه ما يقدرش يعودوا لليمن وانه قد خسر فلوس ورفضوا اوراقهم، تشتي من اي واحد يرسل لها رساله على الايميل يحكي قصته كامله بالعربي بالانجليزي، واللي ما يعرف يكتب عربي او انجليزي يتصل وبيجيبوا له شخص اللي ممكن يجاوبه وياخذ معلوماته كامله، وبتستخدم هذه المعلومات للضغط على الكونغرس بإلغاء هذا الحظر. بتستخدمها في مرافعاتها القانون اللي بتترافع في بعض المحاكم، لأنها أخذت قضايا كثيرة على المحاكم بتترافع فيهن، وبدها تأخذ هذه القصص وترويها للمحاكم إنه في ناس بتخسر فلوس وفي ناس عليها مشاكل وفي ناس ما تستطيع العودة إلى اليمن بسبب الوضع في اليمن.
So, and I want to be really clear, your stories will not have a name attached to it. You know, one thing I know about the Yemen community is what makes them so special is also kind of what prevents them from standing up for themselves. So I see this very kind, family, loving community, but at the same time, I also see a very fearful community that's afraid of standing up. And that is why we have the ban that we have. Because this community has accepted this sort of racism for years. And I know this goes back to the Sana'a embassy. I know about the bribe fees that were being taken in Sana'a and the way people were treated. And for years, this community has been so afraid to stand up. And part of that has resulted in where we are today. So I need everybody to stop being afraid and start standing up.
طبعا هي تقول معرفتها في الجاليه اليمنيه انها جاليه طيبه ومحبه لبعضها، لكن مشكلتها انها ما توقفش مع نفسها. انه بسبب هذا تعاملوا معنا بطريقه يعني غير انسانيه، وطبعا تكلمت عن قالت حتى تعرف بعض المواقف في صنعاء، الرشوه اللي كانت تتم في صنعاء انه ما يقدموا شيء معامله الا بالفلوس، وطبعا هي بتقول انه لازم ان الواحد ما يكونش خايف انه يوقف لنفسه، يعني انه يدافع عن نفسه، انه في قال انه تعرف ان الجاليه اليمنيه هذه انها بتعمل كل شيء صح لكن ما تدافعش على نفسها، لذلك الحظر تم لانه ما فيش احد يعني ما فيش الجاليه بشكل عام ما بتقدرش تدافع على نفسها.
The other thing that I want everybody to know is if you're afraid to come forward and talk about what's going on because you think you're going to be penalized, the only waivers that I have seen be approved are ones that have been highlighted by the media or have filed a federal lawsuit. Those are the only waivers I see get approved. It appears that the people that are yelling and people that are going to the media, the people that are getting advocates and filing lawsuits, those are the waivers that are getting approved. That tells me right that if we start standing up and we bring evidence to light of exactly what is happening, we are going to start to see more waivers get approved.
طبعا يتكلم انه الويفرز هذه او المعلومات اللي قالها بتاخذ المعلومات ولن تذكر اشخاص باساميهم، لانه بتكون الاسامي بعيده عن انه احد ينظر اليها عشان الناس اللي تخاف لا يطلع اسمها. يدخل بعد حتى الويفرز اللي وافقوا عليها، الويفرز الوحيده اللي وافقوا عليها حسب معرفتها انه الناس اللي رفعوا قضايا ووقفوا ضد الحكومه ورفعوا قضايا واللي اخرجوا صوتهم للصحافه ونشروا قضاياهم للناس وانه ما خافوش انه يطلع في مثلا نشر قصته بالفيسبوك او في النيوز، ما كانش عنده الخوف وتجرأ ونقل الصوره هذه للناس، رسالته للناس فوصلت لعندهم للسفاره ووافقوا على الويفرز. اما غيره اللي بيعملها سكته وخايف لا يرفضوه وخايف لا يطلع اسمه ما وافقوش عليهم.
This month so far I've had approximately 60 visas issued, and every single one of them were either as a result of an extreme case that went into the media or as a result of a lawsuit. Go to your attorneys, whoever you're using, ask them to file a writ of mandamus for you. Don't let them be afraid to do that. We've got to get into court and bring attention to the fact that this process is fraud. A lot of the evidence that I use to get the Brooklyn decision is available. It's available in the media. It's available online. Have your attorneys use that information to file your own federal litigation.
اوكي طبعا هي تقول انه كان عندها 60 فيزا اللي اصدروها في جيبوتي او بشكل عام حق الزبائن، كانت كلها قضايا كان منشوره في الصحافه، وايضا قضايا اللي كان فيها يعني قصدي فيزا اللي رفعوا فيها قضايا للمحاكم ووافقوا عليها. ايضا بتقول انها من القضايا اللي رفعتها في محكمه بروكلين، المحكمه الفدراليه بروكلين، انها موجوده، بتنصح اي واحد عنده قضيه انه يذهب الى المحامي وما يخافش، يقول للمحامي يرفع قضيه ويستخدم المعلومات الموجوده التي نشرتها هي لصالحها ولصالح المحامي، ويرفع قضيه لانه لن يعطوك ويفرز الا اذا رفعت قضيه ونشرت قضيتك على مستوى الصحافه لكي الناس كلها ترى القضيه.
The other thing that I want to talk about is the waiver process is not the only thing that this administration is doing. While we are focused on this ban, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes regulation that is going into place that specifically targets people of Muslim descent. And we need to also start addressing that. One thing is detaining people when they come in at the airport. The denaturalization program that's going into place. They are also delaying cases at USCIS. So I want to talk about those situations, and I'd like to spread the word on how to handle those specific situations.
طبعا بتقول انه مش بس الويفرز المشكله اللي معانا الان، ما يدور وراء الستار اعظم من ذلك، حجز بالمطارات، طبعا الناس بيحققوا معاهم بالمطارات لعده ساعات، سحب الجنسيات من بعض الناس، يحاولوا يسحبوا الجنسيات من بعض الناس، تاجيل بعض المعاملات اللي مثلا تاخذ 3 شهور ممكن تاخذ سنه او اكثر. طبعا هي الان بتقول انه التركيز على هذه ال3 النقاط. طبعا موش الويفرز المشكله الوحيده اللي بتمر انه في حاجات اللي صراحه بيحاربوا فيها المسلمين بشكل خاص، فمنها طبعا الحجز في المطارات، تاجيل يعني محاوله سحب الجنسيات وتاجيل بعض المعاملات.
First of all, one of the biggest issues is the attempt to denaturalize people. And I don't even know how this word translates, but there were a lot of shenanigans that went on in Sanaa, both by the staff that was taking bribe fees and both the Yemen community that responded in certain ways of not letting people know they were married or whatever it was.
طبعا بتتكلم على سحب الجنسيات وبتقول انه مشاكلها ما حدث في صنعاء من رشوات ومن بعض وايضا من الحكومه اليمنيه ما كانت بتتعامل بطريقه سريعه بعض الاوراق في صنعاء.
Just if you are one of those people that for some reason came in with a different name, came in single and not married, and I know there are people out there, it does not mean that immigration and the airport staff have a right to violate your rights. So I need to make that very clear, because I think some of you feel like, I got brought in by my father, I got brought in and I was told to do this, and you get to the airport and you think because you did that, that you have to do everything they say, and that is not correct. And I want to give you some protocol for coming through the airport.
طبعا يقول اللي دخلوا هنا سينجلز او دخلوا باسامي غير طبعا مش معنى هذا انه يحق لهم انه يتعاملوا معك بالمطار بطريقه مهينه كحجزك او كمساءلتك، بالذات اللي دخلوا عن طريق دخلوا ابائهم. واني بتكلم في هذا الموضوع بالذات، طبعا هذا من المواضيع اللي بيستخدموها لسحب الجنسيات. في ناس يجي سينجلز وبعدين يروح يتزوج ويرجع، فتكون في لخبطه في المواضيع هذه.
First of all, if you are a U.S. citizen and you come through a border, whether it be across the Canadian border, whether it be by airplane, you are required to only do 3 things. You are required to present your U.S. passport. You are required to tell them the countries that you travel to, and you are required to allow them to search your luggage if they request it. That is it.
اوكي، 3 الحاجات اللي تقدر تعملها ويجي يحق لك تعملها في المطارات، او اللي مفروض عليك تعملها في المطارات او دخولك امريكا سواء عن طريق كندا او اي مطار. اولا انك تثبت لهم تعطيهم جواز سفرك، تخبرهم الدول اللي سافرت اليها واللي جيت منها، وايضا تسمح لهم اذا طلبوا بتفتيش الشنط بس.
You are not required, nor do I recommend that you tell them about family members, what you were doing in Yemen, what your job is. Refuse to answer their questions.
ايضا ترفض اي اسئله يسالوك عن اهلك في اليمن، من معك في اليمن، ايش كنت تعمل في اليمن، ايش شغلك. لا يحق لك انك تجاوب على هذه الاسئله ابدا.
You should ask when you get to the airport. The words that you should use if you are taken to secondary when they call you up for questioning is, "This is my U.S. passport. I've identified myself as a United States citizen, and I would like to go home now."
اوكي، اذا احتجزوك في المطار او طلبوك للتحقيق، كل اللي عليك تقول لهم شيئين. الاول تثبت لهم جواز سفرك، ان تقول لهم هذا جواز سفري، انا امريكي اريد ان ادخل بلدي بس.
You should.
He said, I don't know, this is just quick comment. They said if they refuse to answer them, they detain them longer.
So they are allowed to detain you for 40. The courts have determined between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes is reasonable. And what I find is the people that know their rights and actually stand up for them, it seems that you're going to be detained longer, but they don't end up being detained longer. For example, I happen to have in my office an attorney who's from Somalia. And for years he was detained. And they put pressure on him. And when I started advising him to do this, he was out of there in like 10 minutes. When you let them know that I presented my passport and I'm a United States citizen and I'd like to go home, and if you continue to detain me, I'm going to seek equal justice fees, you will be surprised how much the attitude changes. Regardless, if they detain you beyond 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, then you need to start asking for an attorney. You need to say, look, you either arrest me or you release me. And 9 times out of 10, unless you've committed some criminal crime, they are going to release you.
طبعا النقطة هذه بتقول إذا وصلت المطار، وبعض الأخ قال إنه إذا تكثرت معاه ممكن يحتجزوك أكثر، ولا يحق لهم يحتجزوك أكثر من 45 دقيقة إلى ساعة و15 دقيقة. إذا تعرف حقوقك وتعرف واجباتك، تتكلم معاهم بدون خوف. يعني قالت 9 out of 10 times إنهم بيمشوك. كانوا ضربت مثل إنه كان في عندها أحد المحامين اللي بيشتغل معاه من صوماليا، وكان كل ما يعود يحتجزوه في المطار ويسألوه ويأخروه. لما قالت له ايش كيف يتعامل والطريقة اللي يتكلم معاها يمشوهم سريع. فأي واحد يوصل للمطار قد قالت ايش يقول؟ اثبت انك امريكي بجوازك موجود، انا امريكي، اسمحوا لي ادخل بلدي. لو رفضوا معاهم 45 دقيقة إلى ساعة و15 دقيقة. لو طالت تطلب محامي وتقول له بدخل حقك في المحكمة، أو تقول لهم يعني يا تعتقلوني بقضيه وتدخلوني المحكمه او تخلوني امشي. اما انهم يعتقلوك هكذا، اذا تتكلم عن نفسك وتتكلم بصراحه وبطلاقه لن يعتقلوك اكثر من 45 minutes الى ساعه و15 دقيقه.
It's that exact fear. It's that exact fear that causes people to answer their questions. And they might detain you once, but if you don't break and then you come back out and you file some sort of suit or you fill out the paperwork, they're never going to do it again, I promise. I've had numerous clients who the first time they're looking to see if you're going to break, but the second time they don't detain them.
يدخل بعض الأحيان يجربوا الواحد تجربة، يعتقلوا يحتجزوا مش اعتقال احتجاز، ثم بعدين يسألوه أسئلة. لو بدأ يفتح رقبه ويتكلم معاهم لن يتركوك أبدا، كل ما ترجع بيعتقلوك ويأخذوا منك إجابات. لو ثبت أول مرة وما تكونش في خوف منهم إنه أنا خلاص أنا أثبت لك إن أنا أمريكي، هذا جواز سفري، أنا أسمح لي بالدخول، ما تتكلمش عن أي شيء ثاني مهما سألوك. هي قد قالت لا تجاوب لهم على أسرتك في اليمن، إيش كنت تعمل في اليمن، ولا إيش معك ولا شيء. أنا رجعت بلدي، هذا جوازي، خلاص الموضوع انتهى. ممكن يحتجزوك مرة، بس إذا شافوا إنك ثابت ما تخافش منهم ولا تتأثر لن يعتقلوك بعدها، بيسيبوك تمشي على طول.
حاجة ثانية، أحيانا بياخذوا التلفون.
Yeah, so let me address the phone issue. When you come, this is my recommendation on the phone issue. I recommend that you leave your SIM card in the US, and when you're traveling overseas, you get an overseas SIM card, and just for the one-way purpose, and destroy it before you get on the plane. And then at that point, I wipe my phone clean. I do that. They have a right to search for contraband. They do not have a right to photograph your documents. They don't have a right to photograph your credit cards. They do not have a right to, at this point, that until the courts rule otherwise, they do not have a right to search through or download your cell phone.
اوكي، هو يحق لهم انهم يفتشوا تلفونك. الان طبعا بس تقول له تنصح اي واحد يسافر، السم كارد حقك اللي هنا اتركها هنا. توصل للدول اللي بتسافر سواء كانت اليمن، مصر، جيبوتي، خذ سم كارد هناك، استخدمها هناك، وقبل ما تجي ارميها، ما تحتاج ترجع على هنا. ولما ترجع ممكن تعمل التلفون تمسح به كل شيء وتجيب تلفون نظيف. وايضا لا يحق لهم يصوروا بطاقاتك اللي كريدت كارد، ولا يحق لهم يصوروا بعض اوراقك اللي معك، دوكيومنتس الموجوده معك. والان في الوقت الحالي لا يحق لهم انهم يمسكوا التلفون حقك ويعملوا داونلود اي شيء منه في الوقت الحالي، الا يتغير عن طريق المحكمه.
Facebook, either. I mean, obviously they can go on your Facebook if it's public, but you are not required to provide that information. The other thing is, and I'm going to touch on this briefly because this kind of covers the whole area. It's come to my attention that there are agents in the field now that are going out to people's houses, are stopping people in the streets, and are demanding DNA. It's happened twice in New York now, and I've had it happen to one of my clients in California. Do not give DNA. You are not required under any law to give DNA unless there's a court order. So if you're stopped on the streets, again, I need everybody to start opposing all of this. Say, you want something from me? Call my attorney. Call this person. But I'm not speaking, I'm not giving DNA, and I'm not signing anything without an attorney. That applies at the airport. That applies when you guys are if you go with your family to the embassy. Beyond your normal immigration paperwork, do not sign any affidavits or any statements. I have right now 50 cases from Sanaa where they were held in a room for 12 hours and forced to sign statements. That is not legal.
اوكي، طبعا هي قالت انه سمعت انه في بعض الاميجريشن ايجنتس بيذهبوا لبعض البيوت ويطلبوا دي ان اي من بعض الناس. طبعا حدثت مرتين في نيويورك ومره في كاليفورنيا. نصيحتها انه ما تعطيهم اي شيء الا بامر المحكمه، سواء في المطار، سواء في سفاره، وين ما كنت، جاوا لك للبيت، وقفوك في الشارع، ما تتكلم معهم باي شيء. واذا طولوا معك بالكلام تقول لهم انك لن تتكلم معهم الا عن طريق محامي، وترفض تتجاوب معهم باي شيء، وما تسمح لهم ياخذوا منك اي عينه للدي ان اي ولا اي حاجه الا بامر من المحكمه. طبعا ولا توقع على اي ورقه يعطوك اياها، حتى لو حجزوك، لانه قال في بعض ناس انهم حجزوهم حوالي 12 ساعه وما تركوهم لحتى وقعوا بعض الاوراق. لا توقع اي شيء مهما كان، مهما كانت الورقه، مهما كان الكلام.
If you don't give your, they come and they ask that, I know about 5 or 6 people that this happened to. They withheld their passports. They they would not release their passports when they went to renew it because they didn't give DNA. So they send them a letter saying, give the DNA, we'll give you the passport.
And if you have naturalized, depends, every circumstance is different, but if you have a naturalization certificate, they do not have a right to withhold your passport for DNA.
إذا أنت بتجنس أمريكي حسب ما صار الأخ الأسد إنه لا يحق لهم يطلبوا منك DNA بعد ما أخذت الجنسية وتجدد جواز. إنه لا يحق لهم أن يطلبوا منك DNA أو يمسكوا الجواز ما يرجعوا لك إلا إذا عملت DNA. لا يحق لهم أبدا. طبعا نفس القضية ترفع قضية وتأخذ الجواز.
And if they do withhold your passport, that's the situation where you need to go to your attorney. If you don't have one, you go to a local attorney. I know CAIR is great with helping people stuff that, right? At least I know in Los Angeles.
We actually have some suits filing on behalf of people for that right now.
Yeah, and I have one in Brooklyn. I have one in LA that we've been joining people in specifically on that issue. But yeah, you do without a court order, you don't give DNA. I mean, they're trying to go back 20, 30 years and re-adjudicate citizenship, and it's not appropriate.
طبعا هم بيحاولوا انهم يرجعوا 20 ل 30 سنه للوراء، فتشوا بعض الناس ياخذوا الجنسيات بهذه الفتره ويشوفوا يطلبوا من بعض الناس DNA. طبعا حسب ما قالت اولا انه لا تعطي DNA الا بامر من المحكمه، هذا اول شيء. الشيء الثاني اذا اخذوا منك جواز سفر ورفضوا يعيدوا لك الا مثلا DNA او باثباتات، ما تعطيهم اي شيء، تذهب الى محامي وترفع قضيه عليهم وبيعطوك الجواز. ما حد يتسرع باي شيء.
Before I take questions, I just want to put this out there. My office is tracking all this. We're bringing lawsuits. We're trying to turn some of them into class actions. If you are, all I'm looking for is information. There's no charge. We will not use your name if you send me a note that says, I want this kept confidential, or yes, you can use my name, but I need you to send me your stories. I need to hear about when they're disrespectful at the embassy. I mean, how many years did you go to the Sanaa embassy, were turned away for caught, and then someone met you outside and said, oh, if you pay X amount of dollars at this hotel, we'll make the inadmissibility go away. And this community didn't speak up about that. It's now time to speak up. So I will keep your name anonymous. There's no charge. It's nothing to do with my office. I just need your stories. We're tracking them, and we're putting together lawsuits. I will keep your name confidential, just as I have several State Department employees who are now coming forward as well, I'm also keeping their name confidential. So, like I said, I will give you both an email and a phone number, and you can put on there, here's my story, here's what happened when I went to the embassy, here's what he said to me, make it very detailed. And if you send me that, you can say, yes, you can use my name, or no, please keep my name confidential, and we will respect that.
طبعا المكتب حقها الان بيعمل احصائيات ما يحدث في بعض السفارات وبعض القنصليات من تعاملهم غير لائق ببعض المعاملين وقله ادبهم مع بعض الناس، وذكرت قصه ما كان يحدث في صنعاء لبعض الناس اللي يرفضوا قضيتهم بسبب القاد، ثم لما يخرج المعامل واحد يلاقيه لبرا ويقول له قابلني بالفندق الفلاني تدفع كذا كذا وانا الغي لك الورقه ثلاث انتظار، هذه حق القاد وتدخل تسلم الفيزا. ايضا تطلب من الجميع اي واحد عنده معلومات بدها ترفع قضيه باسم الكل، كلاس اكشن سوت يعني. القضيه هذه بدها معلومات من ما تشيش فلوس طبعا، لما تقول الحاجه الوحيده اللي بدها معلومات عن كل واحد عامل وكانت معامله السفاره معه بطريقه غير لائقه، ينقل لها المعلومات كامله والقصه كامله ويرسل معلومات لها. واذا ما بدك اسمك يطلع هي ممكن ما تطلعش الاسم، واذا بدك اسمك يطلع وتكون من اللي مشاركين في القضيه ممكن تستخدم الاسم. معاه بعض المعلومات من ناس بيشتغلوا في وزاره الخارجيه الامريكيه تعاونوا معاه واعطوها بعض المعلومات اللي بتفيد القضايا. كل اللي طالبه من اي واحد انه يتصل او ايميل ويعطيها قصته، ايش اللي حدث بالضبط، كيف عاملوه، سبيشلي بالسفارات لان قالوا بيتكلموا بطريقه يعني غير لائقه مع بعض الناس.
Yes, please. First of all, I really thank you what you do and what you've done for the family of Mahmoud. And how many people like Mahmoud? How many people like Mahmoud died? Heart attack?
So I have to tell this community, many people don't understand how awful the conditions are overseas. I have about between 2 and 3 U.S. citizens that die overseas or as a result of the situation. I've had the community overseas desperately needs help. If you took my phone right now, I think every person in here would be heartbroken. I've had 3 suicides, 2 of which were in this month. I have had 4 stillborn births because people couldn't get the U.S. citizen children because mom was stuck overseas. I have hundreds of pictures of children covered in bites because the living conditions in Djibouti are so expensive and the housing that they can get is inadequate. Djibouti does not allow the children to go to school over there, so any kids that do go to school have to be placed in a private school, which is quite expensive. The air conditioning, I'll tell you, my house in particular, this is just how outrageously expensive it is. The air conditioner, or the electric at my house in Djibouti, and you know, I do have a big house because I've got a lot of Yemeni who are staying there, single moms, but it's $9,000 every 2 months. So I can only imagine what people are paying, even in these smaller homes. It's got to be at least $800 to $1,000 every 2 months. The rent is absorbent, and the conditions in what they're living are deplorable. And some of them have no option. They cannot go back to Yemen because they don't have a house left. So when you ask me how many families like this, this is, I've been screaming about this for a year. This is a weekly occurrence. I mean, listen, you also have someone in this community who has been trying to see his children since 2002. And the embassy in Sana'a granted 3 of the children and sent 2 back, even though there was DNA in that case. And they sent it back, and they intentionally languished and languished and languished, and they are still waiting overseas to get that case done. And even though we got it sent back to the embassy, unfortunately, the ban was in place, and that gentleman passed away of a heart attack in a store without seeing his children for several years. This is a weekly occurrence. It is miserable, it is deplorable.
طبعا الان بتتكلم عن المعاناه اللي بيواجهها الناس في جيبوتي من امراض، من الغلاء، من المعاملات اللي بيتعاملوا فيها جيبوتي بالذات. طبعا حتى هناك ما يسمعوش الاطفال يدخلوا مدارس، وايضا الامراض اللي اصابت بعض الاطفال. قال انه عندها 3 قضايا انتحار، ناس انتحروا بسبب الاوضاع، و3 امريكان سيتيزن يعني اللي ماتوا، 2 انتحار في الشهر هذا. تتكلم عن الحالات الإنسانية الموجودة في جيبوتي. طبعا الموضوع هو كله يعود إلى الحرب. There is somebody that sent in a question and he said that they had an interview appointment on October 2017, and the counselor that met them or that interviewed them must have had a bad day. He returned the passport, even though my file was complete, I had the DNA done and everything, and I haven't heard anything from them since. My question is, what should I do, and what's your advice to me?
So, has he emailed the embassy to find out exactly why it was returned?
حزام إذا موجود، هل أرسلت إيميل للسفارة وسألتهم ليش ما ردوش عليك؟ He went to the senator and sent him an email and haven't heard anything yet.
Well, the first thing you need to do is I would check the National Visa Center to see if the case has been sent back. That's number 1. Because a lot of times when they do that, and those are the cases I want to document, because you don't get to have a bad day at the embassy. You have to do your job regardless, and every applicant that comes forward needs to be treated with respect and appropriate behavior. So those are specifically the cases I want to hear about. Having said that, you need to track down your case. And you can do that by calling the National Visa Center. Find out if the case is still sitting in the Djibouti embassy or whatever embassy you went to. Find out if the case is back at the National Visa Center, or find out if it's been sent back to USCIS. Here's my biggest concern. A lot of times they have a bad day, throw the passports back, and send the petition back to USCIS. When it goes back to USCIS, they attempt to revoke it. When they revoke it, they send you a notice. But if you're overseas and you don't get that notice, then what happens is your case is revoked and you have to start all over. So it's very important that you track down that case and find out where it is.
اوكي طبعا بقول لك تنصحك انه تتواصل مع الفيزا سنتر تشوف هل المعامله ما زالت في جيبوتي، اعادوها لليو اس اميجريشن ناشوناليزيشن سيرفيس، لانه في بعض الاوقات اذا اعادوها لهنا ممكن يلغوها اذا عيدت للاميجريشن نفسهم. فالافضل انك تتواصل مع الفيزا سنتر وتشوف وضعك ايش، هل الفيزا ما زالت في جيبوتي، هل في معك موعد قادم او من ما شابه ذلك.
أستاذ أنور سؤال.
Do you have any time for an individual case? I wanted to see if you can handle my brother's case. He has an approved waiver, but case is on hold.
Okay, so I'm not taking individual cases. I've had a family emergency, so I was going to stay after to answer some questions, but I had a very serious family emergency. So I'm going to pick a day, and I do come in here. Just so you know, I do days in Chicago, I do days in Los Angeles, I do days in Djibouti, and I do days in New York. And I call them community days, and it's where people come in and I answer questions for them. It's no charge for you to come have a consultation, and I send simple emails. So today I apologize that I'm unable to do that.
Okay, he's got a question on Facebook Live.
I get a question from one people who are watching us.
طبعا حدث لها امر طارئ وقد تكلمنا في هذا الموضوع من قبل. توفى ابوها اليوم، فهي تعتذر عن ما بتقدرش تاخذ كاس يعني قضايا خاصه. و of course on behalf of the Iman Islamic complex condolences for the loss of your father. طبعا
just to add something. She didn't finish. Let me
اوكي
finish the
بس
sentence.
ان شاء الله لو سمحت دقيقه واحده بس في معنا سؤال.
1 minute. It's not even 1 minute. There is a committee. We select the committee as a community radar. I think you're doing a great job. You're doing a good job for the Yemeni. But we want you to sit with the committee because we have to go to Washington to do something about that ban. By yourself, you can do it. If we can all help.
So I want to share with you, I have reached out to a friend of mine. I don't know if you know, I'm originally from Los Angeles. Well, I'm originally from Michigan, believe it or not. I grew up here. But then I went to college at a very young age out in California. So I've reached out to a friend of mine who is a very big producer, and he has agreed to put together with my office all the pictures I have and the storylines. That's why I asked you to send in your stories. And we are going to put something together, and my hope is that I can then bring it to the committees, and you guys can see. We also wanted to reach out to maybe Bernie Sanderson's office because he seems to be very concerned about what's going on with Yemen. And what we wanted to do is bring this presentation and see if he can't get it into, say, the Senate floor and have it viewed. So that's what I'm trying to do on that end, if that's helpful.
طبعا يتعلق على ما تكلم الاخ من نقطه انه تعاوننا معها للذهاب الى واشنطن وعمل شيء من هذا القبيل. هي قالت انه عندها بعض او صديق في لوس انجلوس منتج، يعني عنده شركه انتاج، انه قال مستعد يعمل مونتاج لبعض الصور اللي عندها والوثائق. بيتواصلوا مع السيناتور بيرني ساندرز انه متعاطف جدا مع قضيه اليمن، ممكن يعرضوا هذا للكونغرس ويوروهم المعاناه اللي بتمر فيها اليمن واليمنيين بالمعاملات وما يدور في السفارات.
Yeah, I have a question from a guy. He says, so it's a question for Attorney Julie. He said we are a lottery winners, diversity visa lottery winners. We already had been interviewed by the embassy, and our cases now under the administration procedures. What about us? There is only 1 month left for us. So what do you advise to them?
Here's what I've been telling everybody. There are a couple very narrow exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
I have a DV case where mom has several U.S. citizen children. It might be the only one that's going to go through. If you have U.S. citizen children, okay, that's about the only thing. Or, here's the other thing is, if you have had a visa to the United States previously, you are not supposed to be subject to the proclamation. So I have seen a guy that reached out to me where he did all of his education in the U.S. and had a previous visa. Other than that, there's not a single DV case that is going to go through. They are all going to be denied.
Oh.
So I would suggest, and I feel very bad because I know there's a lot of people who spent a lot of money, sold their stuff, came to Djibouti. I even know that there are people with approval notices that were interviewed prior to the ban. All of those are going to be denied. So I do not want to see anybody spend any more money or any more effort for the DV cases because they are going to be denied.
Is F1 a student's visa included? If somebody has F1 student's visa and they're gonna come to States to study, are they allowed to come after a travel ban was granted by the Supreme Court?
So that's what I'm referring to. There's no visitor visa. There's no student visa. Don't waste your money getting IT. Don't waste your money getting I-20s. Don't waste your money coming and applying. You're just throwing money away. The only exception is if you are here on a student visa. I'm not recommending people leave, but God forbid you had to leave for an emergency. They have said that you would not be subject to the proclamation.
Okay, thank you
طبعا
so much.
تكلمت على الفيزا اللي هي ستودنت فيزا وايضا اللي هو طالب اللي يدخل بالحظ يا نصيب. طبعا هي تعتبر بالنسبه افتر ذا بان كل هذه المعاملات موقفه ما عدا في طريقه واحده اللي بياخذوا اللاري هذول ممكن اذا كان عنده اولاد متجنسين امريكيين يسمحوا له يدخل باللاري فيزا او ناس قد صرفت لهم الفيز من قبل الحظر ممكن يدخل، اما بعد الحظر ما لن يعطوا اي واحد اي فيزا. وبالنسبه للستودنت فيزا اللي قد موجودين هنا طلاب بالستودنت فيزا تنصحهم ما يخرجوش من امريكا، واذا خرجت لامر طارئ ممكن تعود. Here's a question that said there are people who are told they have appointments and then when they go to Qatar, Djibouti or etc. the computer doesn't have the appointment on file.
Here's what's happening. The embassy has scheduled some of these appointments, and what happens is the local embassy will take it off calendar, especially in Djibouti if you don't have a medical. So if you get an appointment, I recommend that you arrive at least 2 weeks prior to your appointment, take your completed DS-260 and your appointment notice, and go get a medical. Because what they're doing is, if you do not have a medical in their system and they don't have all the documents, they're removing the appointment from the system.
اوكي قل للاخوان اللي معاهم مواعيد تنصح انه لازم يكون هنا قبل الموعد على الاقل باسبوعين. اذا رحت قبل المعمل باسبوعين تعمل الفحص الطبي اللي هو لازم. اللي يروحوا متاخرين مثلا قبل البعد بثلاث اربع ايام وما يعملش الفحص الطبي بيلغوا الموعد حقه من الكمبيوتر ويدخل ما فيش معه موعد ويدور موعد من جديد. النصيحه اللي معه موعد يروح لجيبوتي مبكر ويعمل الفحص الطبي ويحضر المقابله.
اللي تكلمتم عن اللي معاهم سيتيزن سفر اليمن اللي هو جرين كارد، ايش تنصحنا المحامين؟
He said you talked about people who are naturalized citizen, they could travel back and forth to Yemen. What about those with a green card status?
So you can travel back and forth to Yemen. I want to say your rights are slightly diminished when you come through the border, but I still hold firm with the idea that you are not to answer any other questions other than where you traveled. If they threaten to take away your green card, okay, some of them say, well, if you don't answer these questions, we're taking away your green card. CBP and ICE cannot take away your green card. The only person that can take away a green card is an immigration judge. So if they say, listen, you have to sign this or we're going to take away your green card, you have to answer our questions or you're going to take away your green card. What you say to them is, if you want to take my green card right now, that's fine. I want to see a judge. I'm not signing anything. I'm not answering any questions. Now, it might result in them taking your green card and paroling you in the country, but at least you're out of inspection. You can get an attorney, we can go back and we can fight and you can have another avenue. So don't be threatened by that. Don't accept that. You still, like I said, your rights are slightly diminished because you don't have some of the leeway, say as a US citizen, but you do have a right not to answer questions. You do have a right to have an attorney present, and you do have a right to see an immigration judge before they touch your green card.
اوكي الاخوان اللي معهم الجرين كارد يرجعوا من اليمن طبعا بتقول انه حقوقك غير اللي هو امريكان سيتيزن، بتكون حقوقك اقل بكثير من الامريكان سيتيزن، بس انه لا يحق للاميجريشن اوفيسر او ايس اوفيسر اللي بيسحبوا منك الجرين كارد الا بامر من القاضي. لو هددوك انه بياخذوا الجواز الجرين كارد او توقعوا لهم اي اوراق ارفض توقع اي اوراق، ولو هددوك ياخذوا الجرين كارد خليهم ياخذوه، بس قل لهم قبل ما ياخذوه تشوف حاكم وتشتري محامي وعلى طول انه لن يعملوا مع غير هذا الكلام. هنا اللي بيعودوا هو بالمطار، تكلم عنه في المطار.
المطار ولا شيء حاكم؟
طبعا في المطار، هذا طبعا وانت في المطار انه ما تجاوبش على اي اسئله، ما توقع شيء ورقه، تطلب انك تحاكم امام قاضي وتطلب محامي. ما يحقش الايس اللي هو immigration and custom enforcement agency ياخذ عليك الجرين كارد، هذا مش شغله، ولا شغل اللي بيشتغلوا في المطارات اللي يسحب عليك الجرين كارد، بيهددوا تهديد يخوفوك عشان توقع لهم اوراق، فلا توقع ولا تخاف من التهديد.
Let me reiterate that point because I want everybody to understand that just because they physically take your green card doesn't mean that you've lost it. Do you understand? You are entitled to a hearing before an immigration judge, and I cannot repeat enough, do not sign anything they give you. Nothing. You take that hearing and go before an immigration judge.
طيب مش معناه انه ما اخذوا منك الجرين كارد انهم خلاص سلبوك حقك، لا، معناه انه ما اخذوه منك مؤقتا. انت تروح تطلب محامي وتحضر قدام المحامي ولن ياخذوه منك الا عن طريق الامر قاضي بالمحكمه. بس
Yeah, I have a question. From my family member, I have the files in Djibouti from my brother and his kids. They said they have to be there to do the medical exam, but they will not give him the interview till he comes to Djibouti and do the medical exam. What's your opinion? You should go there, do the medical and give him the interview, or what?
So here's been my recommendation, because your process isn't going to move forward unless you go there. So I have been recommending that you go to Djibouti, go ahead and do the medical, do your interview, get the response. I think you know now they took so much pressure, not only at the Supreme Court and the media, that these waivers were fraud, that now instead of refusing all them, they're quote unquote granting them, right? God knows if they're ever going to get out of admin processing, but they're quote unquote, they mark the box because they're trying to get rid of the media attention. So I recommend that you do that process, and then what you can do is the Yemen embassy in Djibouti is giving travel documents to go back to Yemen. So you can, my office is doing this, I think there's a few other people that are doing this there. What we're doing is we're keeping the passports. You are going to the Yemen embassy, you're getting one of those travel documents, you're going back to Yemen so that you're not racking up a ton of cost. And then when it comes time, say the waiver is granted, then what you do is at least we, and I think there are other people in Djibouti that are doing this, we drop the passports off at the Djibouti embassy, the visa's placed in it, and then we send it back to Aden so that way your family can leave directly from Yemen rather than coming back to Djibouti. So that's what we've been doing. I understand that there's a few other people in Djibouti that are also doing that. That's what I recommend. And then as soon as you get that slip, I literally would call my congressman's office weekly.
What do you think?
I mean, there's that old saying, right? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. And if you call your congressman's office weekly to find out about your case, they're going to want to make it go away.
They tell us, I mean, if you go there and do the medical exam, in 2 weeks they will give them the interview. You know, but
It's general. Listen, you know that the Djibouti embassy had a staff turnover, and the staff that used to be there a year ago, that was kind and compassionate, that sat on the port for hours, they are all gone. And the staff that's there now is horrible. So they're not moving as quick, but generally it's taking about 2 to 4 weeks after you do the medical.
طبعا بس اتكلم بنقطة سريعة. سؤال الأخ صالح كان حول إنه عنده عائلة أو أخوه في جيبوتي ورافضين يعطوه موعد إلا لما يروح لجيبوتي ويعمل الفحص الطبي. نصيحته له كانت إنه لازم أي واحد عنده موعد وعنده يروح لجيبوتي ويعمل الفحص الطبي ويقدم أوراقه. واللي خايفين من العودة إلى اليمن يقول مثلا ماشي جلس في جيبوتي واروح وارجع، هي بتقول إنه مكتبها بالتعاون مع السفارة اليمنية في جيبوتي اترك الجوازات في جيبوتي ويعطوك وثيقة سفر تعود بها إلى اليمن. وعندما يعطوك الموعد للفيزا يبقى عن طريق المكتب أو عن طريق قريب هناك يقدم الجوازات إلى السفارة يطبعوا الفيز وبعدين يرسلوه إلى عدن وتأخذ من عدن وتسافر تكون أسهل طريقة. لا بس لو سمحتم الأخ وليد داوود عنده كلمة لو سمحت.
This is something that's very important in regards to the context of this discussion. And I know that many of you desperately want your family members to get here. We've had cases of people coming back in the country, re-entry, be they U.S. citizens or have green cards, not just in the airport, but driving back across the country from like the Windsor entry port. then the CBP officers begin a line of questioning or trying to answer, want you to answer certain questions, right? You invoke your rights, or we've had clients that invoke their rights and saying they're not going to talk. What then has happened with several cases, and we get about, and I'm not exaggerating, we get about 5 cases a week of FBI interrogation. So what happens is you assert your rights. They let you in the country. Then CBP somehow it gets tripped up, and the FBI then has a follow-up visit to your home. We've had cases where people had their own immigration issues or actually trying to get their family members into the country, in which the FBI agents then propose or subtly infer that if you work as a jasus in your community, they will facilitate or help you get your family members in here, okay? If this is the case and the FBI comes to your home, if they don't have a warrant with your address, you don't even have to let them in. You should look at the warrant and you make sure it's the exact correct address. Get their card and say that we will have our attorney follow up with you. And of course, CAIR, this is one of our specialties that we do here in Michigan. Do not speak to them and do not be tricked to think that if you become a spy in your community, that they're going to help you get your family members in the country. One, it's haram. That's a justice suit. That's number one. It's forbidden, right? You're not supposed to say, because they want to know who comes to pray Salat al-Fajr in Jama'ah. These type of questions they want to know. I'm trying to tell you. They want to know who comes to pray Fajr in Jama'ah. They want you to tell them or record your sheikh's khutbah or a muhadarah, right? They want to know during Shahr Ramadan what organizations come here, like Al-Ikhlas Training Academy, Islamic Relief, who's coming in to fundraise during Shahr Ramadan, and who's raising their hands. I'm telling you, right? The other thing is, besides this being haram, they're not going to let your family members into the country because you're spies. They're going to use you and throw you away. Okay, it's very, very important for you to understand.
طبعا الاخ وليد كانت ملاحظته للقصه هذه، يقول انه في بعض الناس اللي بيعودوا سبيشلي عن طريق كندا، عن طريق الحدود وينزر، انه بيحققوا معاهم البور بترول اللي هو حرس الحدود، بيحققوا معاهم وبعدين يرسلوا معلوماتهم. طبعا بعد ما تبدا تتكلم معاهم وتعطي وتاخذ معاهم في الكلام، يرسلوا معلوماتك للاف بي اي. البور بترول يعطوا معلوماتك للاف بي اي، الاف بي اي يجوا لك للبيت. اول حاجه تعملها تاكد انه لما يجوا لك للبيت معاهم سيرش وورنت، امر بالتفتيش. الامر بالتفتيش لازم يكون العنوان نفسه عنوانك انت، ما يجيلكش بورنت وعنوان ثاني. تاكد ان العنوان عنوان بيتك الاول. الشيء الثاني بيطلبوا منك، يقول لك لو معك اقارب في اليمن ساعدنا تشتغل معنا جاسوس واحنا نساعدك في معاملاتك. طبعا هم بيقول لك بيوظفوك معاهم بس، اما انهم بيدخلوا اهلك لن ينفعوك بشيء. بيطلبوا منك تتجسس معاهم من اللي كما ضرب امثله، من اللي بيصلي الفجر في الجماعه، تسجل خطب الشيخ، تسجل المحاضرات، لما يكون في جمع تبرعات في رمضان، من الشركات هذه المؤسسات هذه اللي جاءت جمعت التبرعات، من اللي جمع لهم التبرعات، اسئله من هذا القبيل. طبعا هو ايضا يقول لك ان التجسس اصلا حرام في ديننا، ولا تجسسوا. اصلا في ديننا التجسس حرام. فانه اذا وافقت معاهم ودخلت معاهم باسئله وسين وجيم، فتحت واعطيت معاهم في الكلام، المعلومات اللي بدخلها للبور بترول اللي هم اللي على كندا بالذات، اللي على وينزر، توصل للاف بي اي. الاف بي اي بيجوا لك للبيت، واذا ما فيش معاهم سيرش وورنت، نصيحه انه ما تفتح الباب ولا تتكلم معاهم. يعني ما فيش داعي نعمل انفسنا من ما يدق الباب، احنا قبائل افتح تفضل. يعني don't let them in your house. Don't let them in your house.
Oh, and one other thing, even if they do have a search warrant to come in your house, they're able to go to a specific location. You still don't have to talk to them, and you shouldn't talk to them. You let your attorney talk to them, even if they have a search warrant come to your house. Under no circumstance, when the FBI comes to your home, should you be having ahlan wa sahlan, shai al qahwa. No. There's no hospitality, because the I is an FBI for a reason. They're coming to investigate you, to indict you or prosecute you. Right, so there is no a friendly relationship in this. I mean, be respectful. You see?
بس خلص، حتى وان كان معاهم امر بتفتيش البيت، لا يعني هذا انه معاهم امر بانك يفرضوا عليك تتكلم معاهم. حتى وان كان معاهم امر بالتفتيش، ما تتكلمش معاهم باي حاجه. وقد زي ما قال انه ما فيش تفتح بيتك انه تفضلوا شاي قهوه. هم جاءوا يحققوا معك بيلبسوا قضيه او تهمه، يعني ما يقاوش يصادقوك او ياخذوا ويعطوا معك في الكلام، هم جاءوا لامر يا يعتقلوك يا يعملوا لك قضيه، فالافضل انه ما تكلم معاهم الا عن طريق محامي ومن هذا.
You know, I really want to follow up on this because after 9/11 they targeted all of my Palestinian clients. And I had several of those. In fact, I had a large lawsuit down in Orange County. And I want to tell you what happened to the people that cooperated because it's very important. They specifically went after people that had green cards. They told them if they cooperated, they would get their family in. What they did instead is they had them do all this spying. They collected the information and then they brought charges against them when they were done for terrorism. And they got deported and their families didn't come in. So the idea that they're going to help you is not truthful. I've seen it time and time again. I have another family from Lebanon who happened to have a business next to the Iranian embassy, and they targeted him, kept promising he would help bring in his wife. You know what ended up happening to him? He went and he collected all this information for them, and then they accused him of being part of donating to a terrorist organization. They brought federal charges against him, even though all he was doing was working for them. And then he was deported and his wife never came in the country. I cannot, like this is the best point that he's brought up, I cannot stress enough, they are not your friends and they will not help you bring your family in.
طبعا هي تكلمت انه بعد سبتمبر 11 قالت انه بعض زبائنها اخواننا من فلسطين واللي كان معاهم الجرين كارد طبعا تعاقدوا مع بعضهم انه تعالوا اشتغلوا معنا وسجلوا لنا وتجسسوا معنا واحنا بنساعدكم ونجيب نسوان زوجاتكم من فلسطين. تقول لهم انه الاخوان تعاونوا معهم بكل شيء، جسسوا لهم علم كل شيء، وبعد ما خلصوا مهمتهم رفعوا عليهم قضايا او عملوا لهم قضايا ارهاب ورحلوهم وطردوهم من البلد. تعاونك معاهم انه they're giving you nothing.
Most of the cases that I can't fix are because someone talked.
ومعظم القضايا اللي ما تقدر تصلحها في المحاكم الناس اللي تفتح بقها وتتكلم. ايضا جابت قصه لبناني كان ساكن قريب من السفاره الايرانيه ببيروت، جندوه وحاولوا معه لحتى وافق انه يشتغل معاهم جاسوس وعشان يجيبوا له زوجته من لبنان، وبعد ما خلص لبسوا قضيه ورجعوا بلده. تفضل.
انا قضيتي مختلفه شوي، انا يمني بس جاي من دبي، وكان دخلت شهر 9 وعملت مقابله في شيكاغو على موضوع اسايلم كيس، وموافقه العمل بتطلع لي على اخر شهر اوغست، فابغى اعرف اللي وصلوا هنا موضوع اللجوء كيف وضعهم.
He came here through Djibouti.
From Dubai. I'm sorry, Dubai.
It's through Dubai. It is an asylum case, and he had an interview in Chicago, I think, for the temporary status, and I think he's getting his work permit next, and he needs to know what's the process with the TPS.
So you did see the recent announcement that they've extended it, correct?
Yeah, I was with a lawyer in Chicago and we did the interview over there and everything was good, but I want to know what is the asylum case procedure over here.
So I don't know specifically where, so you're not talking about TPS, you're talking about asylum. So no, I don't know exactly.
It's a different case, yeah.
Right, I don't know, have you got a decision on your asylum case? Did they grant it? Did they deny it?
No, they told me you cannot even call the immigration if you want to get the feedback or the response.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true. You can put in.
Because I have the paper about that. I have all the documents.
You can put in a service request, number one.
Yeah.
And Chicago office is notoriously slow. So not only can you put in a service request and multiple service requests, I in Chicago for my clients that were delayed. I actually went into federal court. I filed a writ of mandamus. A month later, I had a decision, and it was positive, by the way. It was positive.
Call our office at CAIR.
Yeah, because it was the same case with my friend. He's a Pakistani too. He's living in New York, and he did an interview. It was in what we call June 2016, and he still not get any feedback about that.
Yeah, Chicago. Once again, Chicago is. You get quicker interviews in Chicago than you do around the country, but they are notoriously slow in issuing decisions. And so, like I said, I would put in service request after so many service requests if I didn't have a response. I don't know if you guys are filing the writ of mandamus, but That's the way to do it. And I just had a client that I filed writ of mandamus, and within 30 days, they granted his asylum.
Okay, the work permission doesn't relate to the asylum case.
Well, you said two things. So you could be getting your work permit based on your asylum, or you could be getting your work permit on your TPS. I don't know if you have both. I would have to look at it.
It's about the asylum case. It's not about the TV. It's about the asylum case. They told me you will get your work permission after 150 days, which is going to be on 26th August.
Well, let me correct that. Okay, you may apply to get your work authorization at 150 days. So you can't even apply for your work auth until 150 days have passed.
Yeah, which is done. It's going to
done.
be done on
Then you're going to file the application. And right now, the work authorization is taking approximately 8 to 9 months after you file.
Okay, I don't care about the work permission. I got it. But what about the asylum case here? How is going on here? Is there like improvement about that, or just?
So you want to know what happened? So let's say they grant your asylum. You must have asylum for 1 year. After having your asylum for 1 year, then you can file for your lawful permanent resident or your green card. If they deny the asylum, they will refer it to an immigration judge, where you will have an opportunity to present your case again.
Because the Yemeni cases who came out from the Gulf countries is different than the Yemeni cases came out from Djibouti or Yemen. That's what I've heard.
Well, I don't know. That it depends. Like if you're living your whole life in, say in Dubai, maybe you don't have a strong asylum case. I don't know without looking at your particular one.
By the way, Miss Julie, I heard from different attorneys about a lot of cases of asylums. They said they took now a long time, as you said. Not only his cases, I know a lot of people, they are waiting like 3, 4, 5 years after they have been interviewed in Chicago. They're still waiting to get approved or to go to court, but no response. So not only him, a lot of people they are waiting.
And what I recommend is I recommend doing a few service requests. If you don't get a positive response to that, or an adjudication, then I recommend the writ of mandamus.
One more thing, because even in the even in the document they said you cannot contact with them. They're gonna send only the email for your lawyer or the your address. So we cannot even contact with them. We cannot even ask about what is the procedure here about the asylum case.
I'm not looking at what notice you are, but I don't agree with what.
بقول لك الاخ وليد داود تواصل مع كير اوفيس وهم بيساعدوك اكثر من شيء، لانه هذه الاسايلم اللي جاوا من الخليج قدر ما تقول انه ما يعرفون
بشكل عام، يعني بشكل عام مش بس اللي جاوا من الخليج، يعني اليمني بشكل عام، يعني هذا
بس هو اللجوء معناه انك ضرر انك ترجع للبلد اللي كنت فيها، هذا اللجوء.
بس انا ما بقدر.
Do any should I go upstairs? Do any of the women have questions?
Okay. I don't know how many ladies up there.
I've seen a few. I don't know if any of them have questions.
النساء إذا عندهم بعض الأسئلة ممكن يكتبينها وإحنا نقرأها لها يعني على طول، أو ممكن هي تطلع لها. Okay. حمود.
So is that a yes? They did or they didn't?
I'll hear them respond in a second.
Because you know they're more important to me than the men, right? Just for the record.
النساء عندها لحظة خلينا نشوف حمود. Okay. حمود. They had an interview a year ago. They told them they're under administrative process, and it's been a year. They haven't returned their passport, and they haven't heard anything, and they need to know what's.
So, have you reached out to them via email?
هل تواصلت معهم عن طريق الإيميل؟ لا. No.
Okay, so that's a big problem for me, and let me tell you why. Okay, one of the ways they make these cases go away, I don't know if you realize, is you go to the interview, it's placed in admin processing, and if a year passes without you contacting them, they will automatically expire the case and tell you have to start all over. So here's what I recommend for anybody who's given an admin processing slip. I recommend that you send an email once a month. And then your only other option after that, if you're not getting a response, is federal litigation. Call your congressman's office.
Okay. طبعا يا حمود بقول لك لازم تتواصل معهم بالايميل، ضروري تتواصل معهم، لانه اذا جلس الكيس عندهم سنه ما حد يتواصل معهم ممكن ينولد يقول لك ابدا من جديد. هو ما يتعامل واصل مع السفاره ولا القنصليه. Here's the question that came in. Is it the new applicants? Do they petition now or wait?
Well, I'm telling everybody to go ahead and petition, because if you wait, all you're doing is delaying the process further. So if it's modified, whatever happens, if you're not already in the system, you're gonna have a much lengthier period. So I recommend that you still put the petition in.
يقول لك تقدم الآن، لأنه كل ما تأخر المعاملات، فالأفضل تقدم الآن، يمكن ما يجي بعد فترة لو قد المعاملات تكون أسهل. سعد.
Yeah, I think you remember me. I'm council member now.
I know exactly who you are. How are you? I see you're running.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago we had ICE officers in Hamtramck County. Majority of Hamtramck have still decided. Let him ask the question.
Hold on, I want to hear about this. So you've had ICE officers in Hamtramck.
We had 9 officers in Hamtramck.
لو سمحت سعد. لو سمحتم يا أخوان ممكن الردوا عشان نسمع الأسئلة لو سمحتم. جزاكم الله خير.
I said 2 weeks ago we had 9 officers of ICE in Hamtramck, and they were traveling around and doing stuff. And then we had an emergency meeting, and majority of the elected officials in Hamtramck decided to do whatever it takes to help the Iranian community. So what is your advice? How can we help? We are ready for anything. We can have an official letter to the president in the White House as a city. Just tell us what do you think?
How can they help with the entire process? Not just that, but how can the community get together and actually help, kind of help the mission and the...
Right. I mean, different cities are choosing to do different things. One of my favorite is Portland, by the way. The protesters actually surrounded the ICE building in Portland and shut them down for 2 weeks. And the reason that they were able to do that is because the city supported them. The city refused officers when they come into our community. That's a really important thing, because I think Portland, Oregon was a great example of the city standing up and protecting the residents. I also think that you need to have as many of these meetings as you can. I can't repeat again. Listen, the Yemen community is very gentle, it's very kind, and they accept whatever thrown at them. And that needs to change. You need to start standing up for your rights. You need to start saying no and holding these meetings and talking to people and explaining to them that they don't have to be afraid. I sit here as a lawyer with years and years of experience, and every time I've had a case that I couldn't solve, it was because someone talked. And every time, knock on wood, that I've had someone stood up and defend their rights, they have been left alone, or the case or the problem was resolved. And that's what I can tell you over years and years of experience.
So an official letter from Hamtramck government would help for anybody?
I mean, obviously write a letter, but what are you doing in the community to get them out of there?
Let me comment. Your local government in Hamtramck and the mayor with the police chief actually claimed that they had no knowledge of ICE operating community at all, because we made a public statement about it in CAIR, Michigan, and also contacted Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence. Actually, there's a meeting going on Monday, which you need to raise this issue. Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence is meeting here locally. Lead Cafe. So you should bring this issue to Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, but just to solidify what she said, and the ICE office is actually in Detroit. It's not in Hamtramck, right? There were people who were out there protesting, including some Muslims that were out there protesting and sat in front of the ICE office. But this goes again to the issue of coalition building, and I say this in the Muslim community all the time, that justice doesn't mean just us. See, when they go around the country, including in Southwest Detroit, picking up Latinos, see, we don't really say much to the community. When they came into Hamtramck and it primarily affected Arab and Muslim, then we get all worked up, right? That's because there's something skewed about how we look at things as a community, right? So when we try to raise awareness about these issues, or if you see the Latino community that's being targeted in Southwest Detroit, there should be some Muslims who are down there and also supporting that issue, and that's how we're going to be able to protect ourselves, because the ICE raids and the harassment by ICE and stopping people asking for papers is not just happening here in Hamtramck. It's happening in Grand Rapids, It's happening in Southwest Detroit. It's happening all across the country right now with President Donald Trump's more racist policies. And I can't say that enough. Justice doesn't mean just us.
اوكي طبعا الاخ سعد كان سؤاله للمحامية جولي انه ايش ممكن تعمل حكومة المدينة بخصوص ايس. طبعا هي ضربت مثل انه مدينة اسمها بورتلاند اوريجون، انه اهل المدينة عملوا مظاهرة وراحوا طوقوا مكتب الايس اوفيس من جميع الجهات وعملوا عليه زي الحلقة واغلقوا المحل لمدة اسبوعين. ايضا البوليس ما يتعاونش معهم، بوليس المدينة نفسها ما يتعاونش مع ايس باي شيء. ايضا انه السيتي كونسل لازم يكون لهم موقف، وايضا الناس كلها يقول هي بتتكلم دائما انه اكثر القضايا اللي ما استطاعت تساعد اصحابها اللي يتكلموا فتحوا القفم وتكلموا مع الحكومه. النصيحه دائما انه ما حد يتكلم معاهم، انهم ليسوا اصدقاء لكم، وايضا احنا لازم نكون يد واحده. والاخ وليد داوود قال جاستس مش معناها بس لنا احنا فقط ندور العداله لنا فقط. جاستس فور everybody، العداله لكل الناس. انه عندما ترى انه في بيقوموا بتعسف ضد اي ناس مهما كانوا، سواء كانوا مكسيكانز مسلمين عرب من ما كانوا، انه الكل لازم نكون نوقف مع او ضد هذا الشيء. Miss Julie, I have a question here. He said this is a weird one. He said one person was granted a visa, him and his mom. It's been 9 years. Now we received a note from the court that says he's due for deportation because he entered the United States before his mom.
Okay, so I'm guessing that what happened is the child was a derivative on the mom. I'm sorry. So I think what happened is the child was a derivative on mom's case, which means his visa was dependent on mom's. So probably what happened is they both got granted their visa, the child entered, and then mom followed later. Did mom come in or mom never came in?
اللي صاحب السؤال هذا، هل الام جاءت ولا ما جاءت؟
هو كلام قبلها بشهر على اساس يعني يكون له سكن. وبعدين هي اتت هي واخوه من بعد شهر، والان هي عندها جنسيه امريكان سيتيزن، اخوها امريكان سيتيزن، هو قدم على السيتيزن لما قدم بشوف هذه القضيه اللي هنا ذاك بالامه وبس عمره من فوق اول 18.
كم كان عمره يوم دخل الوحده؟
19.
Okay, he said
So the child was a derivative on her case. So that is such a ridiculous technicality that they are going to put forth. I understand he's over 18, but it's a ridiculous technicality. So what happens is the children, if they're, let's just say he came as a derivative, so I'm assuming like either dad or a lawful permanent resident petitioned for mom, and the child came as a derivative. So technically the child can't have a visa without mom. But in this case, what happened is they were both granted a visa and the child entered first. It is the most ridiculous technicality that they're going to try to deport him. However, he is eligible for something called a 212H waiver. And this is exactly what that waiver was designed for. And even if he's put in removal proceedings, it will be covered by this case. So you need to get a 212 waiver. That's exactly what will fix this problem. He will be allowed to keep his green card and then can probably apply for his citizenship. But make sure, don't sign anything, don't agree to anything. Waiver, 212 waiver.
اوكي اقول لك الخطوه اللي تتخذها انه تطلب ويفر فورم اسمه 212 212. الويفر هذا مخصص للحالات هذه، الناس اللي يدخلون قبل ابائهم. طبعا يقول ان هذا من النقاط المهزله جدا فيها بالقانون هذا، بس انه لا يعني ما يعني هذا انه ما يرحلوا على طول. يطلب ويفر 212، الويفر 212 هذه مخصصه للشيء هذا وبيعطوها الجرين كارد ان شاء الله ويقدر يعامل السيتيزن شيب. ده هو هذا يقول لك اعمل ويفر 212.
I can give you my office number and we can talk about it.
Okay, he said this question came in on
So this is a great question because this is affecting the entire community. I am trying to turn my lawsuit in Brooklyn into a class action. If you are holding one of these approval notices, I need you to get in contact with my office. I prepared it to file on Friday. Friday. I have now waited until Monday. If we get some of these through the weekend, my staff is working on that. If you have one of these approval notices, I want to hear from you because I want to try to get enough people together to do a class action in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
It's the approval notice. Remember how before December, let me tell you something, it wasn't just Djibouti. They're trying to pretend it was Djibouti and they made a mistake. It wasn't. There were people in Egypt, there are people in Malaysia, there are people in China, there are people in Turkey, and this goes out to not just the Yemen community, but everybody, and especially the Iranians. They got the same thing. If you have one of these approval notices, and especially from a different embassy from Djibouti, I want it. I want to know. Because I'm trying to bring a class action, because I won that lawsuit in Brooklyn, or at least the preliminary injunction, I didn't win the lawsuit with the preliminary injunction, which said that anybody that had one of those approval notices is not subject to the proclamation.
اوكي الاخوان اللي معاهم ورق زي هذا اللي جابوها اللي هي اشعار الموافقه تطلب منهم الجميع انه يتواصلوا معها ويعطوها المعلومات هذه اللي بتستخدمها في القضيه اللي بترفعها في بروكلين نيويورك وتحول القضيه من قضيه خاصه الى قضيه عامه وتكون قضيه راي عام لانه بيحاولوا يعملوا انه قضيه التلاعب هذه بتجي من جيبوتي هي مش جيبوتي فقط هي تلاعب بالمعاملات بشكل عام. تفضل.
And let me tell you, just because you're in Michigan, it doesn't matter. I can do nationwide class action.
يا سؤال كلاس اكشن حتى لو كنت عايش في ميشيغان ما تاثرش على القضيه في نيويورك.
الناس اللي قدموا معهم موافقه على الفيزا ويتكلم عليهم معهم ورقه بس تواصلوا معاهم.
الجواز معاهم.
المحامية تقول الناس اللي قد عندهم ورقة باستلام الفيزا يتواصلوا معاها. هذه معلومة للجميع أي واحد صدرت له سند إنه يجي يستلم الفيزا يتواصل معاها وإن شاء الله يكون يعني يحصل الفيزا.
Okay, so that's what I want to repeat for everybody. There's tons of cases in admin processing. So if you've been interviewed and you haven't heard anything, here's what I'd like you to do. I would like you monthly to send an email to the embassy. I would like you weekly to call your congressman's office. And I would like you to seek out counsel to file what's called a writ of mandamus.
Okay.
Just because they don't answer doesn't mean they didn't hear you.
طبعا هو نفس النصيحه اللي نصحتها الاخ انه التواصل المستمر مع السفاره ما توقفش انه خلاص انا بنتظر لما يقولوا لا كل شهر اعمل رساله كل اسبوع اعمل رساله في امل ان شاء الله يس اوكي وين اوكي Okay, he said his grandkids had an interview 9 months ago. They took their passports, and 4 months later they were getting the passport, they were denied it.
Oh wait, so here's the other thing I want to point out to something that some people forget. Because you look like, how long have you been in the United States? Do you mind if I ask? More than 20 years.
Okay,
So one thing that I would like to point out is if you are a U.S. citizen and you've been a U.S. citizen for a while, before you file for a visa, make sure your kids are not already U.S. citizens. I see so many cases where people spent years. Listen, I have 40, 50-year-old women and men overseas whose parents petitioned for them. The case has been around for 20 years, and I look at the case and I go, why? This child's a U.S. citizen. So one thing I want to bring to the community's attention is, make sure before you, if you're a U.S. citizen and you're filing for your children, or your son is filing for his children, make sure those kids are U.S. citizens before you file for a visa.
Okay, طبعا هذه نقطة مهمة جدا. الإخوان اللي هم American citizen ولو بعد ما استلم الجنسية سنين 20 25 سنة بدل ما تروح تقدم لهم معاملة تبي تطلبهم طلب جنسهم تجنيس. مهما كان أولادك أولاد إذا مش citizen ما يقدرش يقدم لهم جنسيات. طبعا الوقت المحامية بدها تمشي قبل ما ننهي اللقاء بيكون معنا كلمة الأخ إبراهيم ثم بعدين
وهي ايضا يمكن تشوف الاخوات
عبد الله الشيخ
انور. هي
من الوقت
انور هي يمكن تشوف هي بتقول بتشوف سؤال الاخوات. هي بتقول تشوف سؤال
ممكن
الاخوات.
نتواصل مع الغرفه التجاريه الامريكيه، الاخ بدر باوزير اللي عنده اسئله.
المحامية ايضا بتلتقي مع الاخوات في المسجد في الدور الثاني، تسمع منهم الاسئله. ايضا في اخوات حاضرين في الدور الثاني في المسجد، تسمع منهم ايضا بعض الاسئله وتجاوبهم.
You tell him he texts me all the time. I hear from him twice a week. Don't worry. I'm going to 4 o'clock.
اوكي هي بقى تقول مستعده تجلس للساعه 4. اوكي خلاص هي مستعده تجلس للساعه 4 بس دقيقه واحده.
المحامية أيضا قالت بعد هذه الندوة سوف تستمع لبعض القضايا، يعني تقابل ناس وتسمع منهم أيضا. شكرا لها على هذه الجهود وشكرا للجهة التي نظمت هذه الندوة. بعض الأسئلة التي أنتم أرسلتوها الآن في الفيسبوك أنا أحاول أقرأها إن شاء الله وأسمع منها الرد ونكتب عليها تعليق لاحقا إن شاء الله.
They had a case sent to Djibouti, but because of the situation in Djibouti and living expenses, he asked his case to be transferred to Cairo. They respond to him was, once your case gets to Cairo, let us know, inform us that they're in Cairo. We'll transfer the case from Djibouti to Cairo. He said they've been there 6 months and they haven't heard anything.
Your kids are in Egypt right now?
أولادك في مصر. Yes, they are.
And did you reach out to the U.S. Egyptian Embassy to let them know that you're there?
هل تواصلت مع السفارة إنه أولادك هناك؟
مصرية.
هنا. Yes.
How many times?
كم مرات؟ كم مرات تواصلت معهم؟ يعني يصير more than 5 times.
And have you reached out to Djibouti Embassy too?
تواصلت مع السفارة في جيبوتي؟ لا، هل تواصلت مع جيبوتي؟ No.
Oh, okay. I would reach out to Djibouti too and say, my kids are in Egypt, please send my case to Egypt. I would try that. If that doesn't work, the next avenue is to call your congressman's office.
اوكي، نقول لك أول حاجة تنصحك تتواصل مع السفارة في جيبوتي. لحظة، طيب أنا أقول لك إيش اللي قال. تتواصل مع السفارة في جيبوتي إنهم ينقلوا معاملتك إلى مصر، وإذا لم يتم نفذ المعاملة تواصل مع الكونغرس. مع الكونغرس. مع السنة. اوكي تفضل. اوكي حاج مصطفى.
A friend of mine is he has an old green card which doesn't have an expiration date.
Right. When did he leave to go overseas?
He's planning to, but he's
Oh, don't leave at that. So let me tell you about those
هذه
old green cards.
هذه نقطة مهمة جدا.
So let me tell you about those old green cards that don't have an expiration. The government made an announcement that everybody holding one of those cards needs to file and renew it. So I'm going to recommend that he immediately file an I-90. He can do it online. And once he gets the receipt, if he needs to travel before he gets the card, because it takes about a year, he can go get a stamp. He can make an info pass and get a stamp in his passport.
اوكي طبعا الاخ سؤاله كان عن الاخوان اللي معاهم الجرين كارد القديم اللي ما فيش له تاريخ انتهاء، هل يقدر يسافر فيه ويرجع الان؟ الاجابه لا. لو عندك واحد من هذول الحكومه الامريكيه قد اعلنت لاي واحد عنده جرين كارد قديم ما فيش عليه تاريخ انتهاء ان يقدم وياخذ جرين كارد جديد. واذا بده يسافر قبل ما ياخذ الجرين كارد الجديد ممكن يروح للإيميجريشن ويعملوا له خط في الجواز انه يسافر ويرجع.
Who put this piece of paper on my desk?
He left it. He needs an answer. He wants it.
Okay, so make sure I got answered.
Okay, حاج
I
مصطفى.
might ask question or something.
تفضل.
I've been asking.
ولا يهمك. بعدين حاج مصطفى.
Okay, I have a question. First of all, we appreciate what you're doing for our people. And everybody knows it's hard work, and I can see it here. But I have a question. I applied for my married daughter for petition in the year 2007. She's married and has kids. And it stayed like it for maybe 3 years or so. They sent me letters to provide them with more documents and stuff or this and that, which already have everything that they asked before, and this time I provided. I gave it to them. And then when they ask me something, I can't I didn't know anymore.
Right.
I guess they said they will dismiss the case.
Did you send the notice right now? Did you respond to the notice?
I went to a lawyer.
Okay.
I went to a lawyer and I explained to the lawyer. The lawyer asked me out in New Orleans. He asked me, he said, maybe we should have a new petition,
No, because you've been holding on to that
I
petition.
know, I told him no. I said, I'll appeal. I said, I'll appeal. He said, he was thinking if we appeal it, then,
Did you appeal it?
I appeal it, it's coming in my favor.
Good.
It's coming good. But he told me, he said, the appeal is in your favor, but they're going to save you a letter. If they didn't save you a letter to prove that it's being proved, then they might deny it. So I've been waiting, but he told me 30 days.
So this is something that I want to bring to your attention. So I right now have 5 lawsuits around the country specifically addressing this issue. So I don't know if you're aware, but they have something called the Yemeni Adjudication Program. Okay? And in normal circumstances, like say I'm from France or I'm from Ecuador or I'm from Honduras, I fill out my I-130, I attach the birth certificates of whatever the relationship is, sometimes a marriage certificate, 2 passport photos, and there's a specific code section that says even if they question the marriage or the relationship, the presumption falls in favor of the petitioner, and then it'll filter itself out at the embassy or the adjustment. I'm sorry, hold on 1 second.
Okay,
Well, let me finish this. The program is intentionally geared towards getting rid of these cases. So if I'm from France or I'm from Ecuador, I'm never going to see an RV. But that's not what they do in the Yemen community. They send RV after RV after RV in hopes that you're going to miss one of those. They ask for things that are not required by any other nationality. So, and the worst decision that you can hear is, let's just apply for another petition. Because you know as well as I do, if you're petitioning for your married daughter, that's 15 years, right? And if you do a new petition, you've wasted all those years. So yes, take an appeal. If the appeal doesn't work, take it to federal court. I mean, the more we challenge this stuff, the more it goes away. And I am working through these lawsuits to try to get rid of, whether I succeed, I don't know, but get rid of this program that's intentionally geared towards people like you to make you lose your time and get rid of a valid petition. Have you done the DNA? Have you done?
I send them email after email, and I went to a different lawyer. He sent them an email and never respond. I come over here, then I'm now Michigan. I'm Michigan. I went to the Congress. Yeah. They send them a letter of what is regarding this case, and they won't even. They said because it's in a visa center. They said they sent it.
Well, if it's in the visa, wait. If it's in the visa center, it means the case was approved, and now you're waiting for the priority date. So if it's in the visa center, that's good news. You need to find, is it at USCIS or is it in the visa center? That's what you need to determine. If it's in the visa center, you're just waiting out your priority date, because right now they're working on December 2006, which means you only have a year. But you need to find out where that petition is. Don't let it go. It's good that you appealed. I wish more people knew that. By the way, everybody should know that he refused to file a new petition and appealed, and he won. And this is the message that I need to get across. The more you fight this stuff, the more you're going to win.
طبعا الاخ سألها سؤال حول القضيه انه راح لعند محامي والقضيه كانت لبنتك صح؟ كانت لبنته فالقضيه طولت معه فالمحامي قال له خلاص ايش رايك نبدا من جديد بس الوالد يعني تصرف بحكمه ورفض قال له لا انا ارفض ان انا ابدا من جديد وليش المعامله حقي تستمر زي ما هي وعملوا ابيل والحمد لله كان الابيل لصالح الوالد فالان القضيه حقه في الفيزا سنتر معناها انه بس منتظرين موعد يعطوه موعد اعتقد للسفاره ويعطوك الفيزا.
They send it to the visa center.
Yeah, they send it to the visa center. علشان يعطوك الموعد هذا اللي اوكي مصلح
هم يعادون باليمن.
لازم
الملفات حقهم قدم بجوبي وعادون باليمن. والمشاكل هذا حصلها مع
Have you gotten an appointment notice?
معك موعد من جيبوتي.
ما قبلش موعد بس الملف قدوه هنا.
He no appointment yet, but it's already in Djibouti.
Okay. So as soon as you get an appointment notice, make sure you arrive in Djibouti 2 weeks before and do your medical.
أول ما يعطوك الموعد قبل الموعد بأسبوعين لازم تكون هناك. كويك questions خلاص. once ما يعطوك الموعد على طول. يعطوك الموعد على طول.
عادون باليمن.
هو يقول لك لما
اوكي بعد الأسئلة لما تمشي خليني قد مستعجلة ومعنا بقى معنا سؤالين.
A while ago, I think you remember we talked about a family that been stranded in Yemen more than 3 years, 4 years. Their permit has expired. They couldn't leave Yemen because they have a daughter that doesn't have a paper.
We talked about that.
Yeah. They canceled coming after they have the Trump decision. They're thinking it's going to be a waste of time to come to Djibouti or America.
But remember, I told you what to do in that case.
Right. Again, we ask the question. If they come here, are you willing? If they come to America, are you
That's
willing?
not a discussion that we're going to have on this film.
Oh, okay.
That's a discussion that I give you a very specific solution to that problem. And we will talk in person because you don't want to breach their confidentiality. Okay? They need some confidentiality with that case. But I will tell you that the advice that I gave you when you came in my office has not changed.
How do we follow up with you? Because Omar is not answering the phone and we can reach. So how to follow up with you?
So I am working on. So I know the phone calls for like non-clients. Like my clients all have my phone and they text me. The office is experiencing probably about 15,000 calls a month.
Please.
So I'm going to tell you. So we've started to hire more staff and we put an answering service in place. I'm aware it's a problem, but I think you have my cell phone. So you have a way to reach me. No, sorry.
The question is, they said, question said that you spoke to some people about taking over the cases, and they need to know if you have time to do the contract today.
So, yeah, it's so I unfortunately have a very important family obligation. I will find the time this week to try to come back and sit down and do it. But I literally I have to go. I have responsibilities to my family and I'm super sorry.
اوكي خلاص طبعا هي الان مستعجله كل شيء. ممكن هبه تطلع عند النسوان عندها تاخذها على رسائل عند النسوان وابراهيم والاخ عبد الله شيخ يتكلمون معك.
So I've now looked at property in 3 different places. I think I made a decision. I'm waiting for the site plans to come back.
يعني بالنسبه للعقد اليوم
It can't, listen to me, it can't hurt to go to Djibouti and do the medical because once they know you're there, they expedite your case. So it can't hurt to go to Djibouti.
والله ما بين الدرجات لو وصلتم الى جيبوتي يعملوا الفحص الطبي ممكن يستعجلوا في القضيه.
تنبه.
اوكي.
لا تفتقع من السرعة، هي خسارة سلط. والكفاية. ايوه. وصلنا للموضوع انه قالوا هذا السنتين قالوا ما تصير ما يدرك موعد الا يصير نعذر الوضع. هو
What's your name and phone number?
في بعض الناس يسألون المحامي يقول بعض
الذي يريد يتكلم معك اكتب اسمك ورقم تليفونك and she'll call you in a couple days. We want to thank the Yemeni Chamber of Commerce, Masjid Ma'ad Jabal, Masjid Ali, AT Law Group, AMPAC, and YPAC for helping us organize this event.
I think it's on paper. Is anybody that wants to speak to me, put your phone number and I will make sure you get in touch.
السلام عليكم. لو سمحتم بس دليلنا معنا ضيوف عبد الله الشيخ يريد لو سمحتم بس اجلسوا. عبد الله الشيخ طبعا جاء من دربن ولو سمحتم بس اعطونا بس شوي من وقتكم نخلص لو سمحتم.
يا اخوانا بليز can you have just بدنا 1 minute ممكن؟ just 1 minute. ارجوكم بس اجلسوا شوي راح اكثر مع الجمهور راح. can you sit for 1 minute؟ 1 minute. You can go sister to the sister. You can go up there.
You can go see the sister.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to give Ibrahim his rank for state senate 1 word, and then I will speak 1 word.
No, I have nothing to say. We have 10 days.
Okay, brother, listen. Okay, brother, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Abdullah Sheikh. I am president of AMPAC, American Political Action Committee, and also American Muslim Leadership Council. I just want to say one thing. Yeah. شباب, do you know who نحن هلا المس اللي احنا فيه who caused it? I'm asking question. شباب, بتعرفوا مين السبب باختيار رئيس ترامب؟ بتعرفوا مين السبب؟ أحسن, جزاك الله خير. بتعرفوا مين السبب؟ رح لكم مين السبب. نحن السبب في اختيار ترامب. نحن في عنا 4000 ريجستر فوتر بهم ترامب. كم صوت؟ 400 واحد. ال 3600 اللي ما صوتوا هن اللي اختاروا ترامب. بديكس عنا بمسجد ديكس، البريسك تاع مسجد ديكس كان عنا 2300 واحد بس بحول مسجد ديكس. كم واحد صوت؟ 300 واحد. مين مسؤول عن اختيار ترامب؟ نحن 2000. هلا قبل شوي قبل نص ساعة كانت ايس حد مسجد ديكس على لون ستريت واخذين كثير من السيارات مليانة ناس من جماعتنا. هلا قبل نص ساعة كان حد مسجد ديكس 10 كان في بسموه بسموه حاجز لايس. نقطة تفتيش حد مسجد ديكس على لون ستريت وكان مليانة ناس من جاليتنا فيها بالسيارة. مين مسؤول؟ نحن مسؤولين. يعني اللي ما بيطلع يصوت هو المسؤول. ايه شوف هاي الاخوة كلهم طلعوا صح ولا لا؟ نحن عندنا 4000 صوت، نحن مسؤولين نطلعهم كلهم يصوتوا. ما بس نطلعهم، نطلع جيران ونطلع اكبر عدد ممكن. إذا نحن ما عملنا هيك رح ندفع ثمن غالي كثير. أنا بحكيكم هيك والمي على نحن ان شاء الله رح نرجع نشتغل. تفضل يا سيدي. الخبر مساجد اكثر مش عن التصويتات. نحن شوف بديربون، نحن اكثر شيء شغلنا هلا بديربون. مساجد ديربون الحمد لله عمل رائع، الحمد لله السنه الماضيه واللي قبلها نحن وي دبل، بس طلع عندنا 25% عملنا بس مع انه وي دبل كنا بس 10%. هالسنه ان شاء الله نحكي مع الاخوه هون بالمسجد يوم الاربعاء. تفضل.
المساجد يعني في مسجد علي وفي مسجد معاذ يعني الحمد لله يعني يشكروا على العمل الذي يقوموا فيه ودائما يعملوا على الانتخابات واهميتها وكذلك التسجيلات وساعدها وحصل عندنا طاولات كثيره هذا وسجلنا الله رحمه. ان شاء الله.
فنحن يا اخوانا شوفوا نحن عاوزين امرين. اول شيء طبعا بدنا نشكر شمل الكوميرس على هذا النشاط، بس نحن عندنا امرين. نحن بدنا نطلع نجيب نصوت وبدنا نعمل فولنتير. نروح نخلي الناس تعطي سليك. بدنا نفتح التليفون عفوا لحظه كده. نحن اليوم كل واحد يسمع يفتح التليفون يقعد يتكلم ما يخلي ولا واحد من جماعتنا انه يطلع يصوت. اذا ما صوتنا صدقوني يا اخواننا اول شيء هلا طلعوا قانونين. القانون الاول الفدرال جفرمنت عم يفتحوا الفايل لكل واحد اخذ جرين كارد الى 30 سنه لمضى. بيطلعوا اي شيء غلط اي شيء بس يحطوا عم ياخذوا منه الجنسيه ويشحنوا. هذه اول قانون هلا طلع. القانون الثاني طلع امبارح من ستيت اوف ميشيغان. كل واحد معه جرين كارد عم ياخذ مساعده ممنوع له سيتيزنشيب. طلعوها هذه صارت ب 96 موجود بالجواري. فتحوها ريببليكان ستيت وطلعوها. اذا نحن ما بنطلع ناس مثل جماعتنا ناس منا وفينا تطلع على ستيت سنت بستيت اوف ميشيغان وتغير رح ندفع الثمن غالي. القرار لكم يا بنطلع يا بنقعد بالبيت. انتوا بعدين نحن ما مسؤولين بس على جماعتنا. كل واحد بينظلم، مكسيكي، فنزويلي، اي واحد بينظلم، ونحن كنا فينا نحن نختار وننتخب. نحن ديننا بيقول لنا انه نحن مسؤولين، صح؟ اخر شيء بدي اقول لكم شغله صغيره. الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم، الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يجوا يصلوا ويطلعوا. الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم مين كان يقود الجيوش؟ ومين كان يخطط استراتيجيا؟ مين كان يعمل سياسه؟ ومين كان رئيس الدوله؟ مش نفسه الامام اللي كان يصلي؟ والناس كلهم اللي يصلوا وراه؟ طيب ليش احنا هون بس نصلي ونطلع ما لنا علاقه بشيء ثاني؟ بس نوزع فلاير بالسياسه ونقول لك لا لا انا ما دخلني بالسياسه. يعني نسينا مين نحن منين جينا؟
وهذه مو سياسه، هذا امور معيشه.
هذه معيشه، هذه عباده.
نعم.
والله العظيم انه هيدي مثل العباده، اذا ما بنخلي هيك نحن ندفع الثمن كثير غالي. والله اعلم ان شاء الله نضلنا معكم على اتصال، بس رجاء تعتبروها عباده ونشد كلنا سوا لنجيب 4000 فوت. نحن لازم نجيب بنجال ونجيب هون بتهم ترايمك كلها لازم نجيبها، بس على الاقل خلينا نبدا هالسنه نجيب جماعتنا كلها تصوت. ولا حكون كاس علينا كبيره والله العظيم. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
في بعض الوايبات يعني سيستم يعني عمال نجرب نصلحه. السيستم هذا بيكون الاتصال على تقريبا بالمنطقه اللي احنا فيها هذا اكثر من 5000 مصور. طبعا احنا عندنا اكثر من 15000 يعني تسجيل مع التلفونات تبعهم، والان ان شاء الله بدون تريننج علشان نسوي تبع الكمبيوتر على الاتصال بجميع الذي لازم يخرجوا يعني بالمنطقه هذا. فاحنا عمالنا على هالشغله ان شاء الله. المشايخ يعني كانوا قالوا نفس ويك ان شاء الله بيتكلموا عن الخروج للانتخابات واهميتها مره ثانيه، رغم انهم يقدموا عمل يعني يشكروا عليه جدا جدا، يعني دائما بيتعاملوا معنا دائما يعني مع المرشحين والجميع. فاحنا في العمل ان شاء الله، نحن مع بعض نضحك ان شاء الله، وان شاء الله يكون في تجليس من خير ان شاء الله. بارك الله يعطيكم العافيه. يعطيكم العافيه. بارك الله فيكم. شكرا يا شباب، جزاكم الله خير.